As you get closer to retirement, one of your main questions should be, what's my Canadian pension plan going to be when I retire? How much am I going to get? And the answer to that question is much more complicated than the question itself, and many of you struggle with it. You can jump onto Service Canada and get a rough estimate, but if you've ever been on CPP, if you've ever had kids, if you've ever had years that you haven't contributed, it becomes much more complicated. But luckily, there's a new calculator out there that will help answer this question for the majority of you that are watching this video. Now, the Canadian pension plan is something that we pay into, and when you turn at the earliest 60, anywhere between 60 and 70, you can start taking money out of it. Now, again, that brings up a key question. I can take it anywhere between age 60 and age 70. When's the best time to take it, and how much am I going to get at different ages? And like I said earlier, the answer to that question is a bit more convoluted than it should be. Now, you'd think that the Canadian government will launch a calculator that would be easy to use, that would be accessible to all. Unfortunately, they've never done that. And even up till recently, calling Service Canada and getting your information is very challenging. I've heard more stories lately that Service Canada is more helpful around this aspect, but I wouldn't rely on it or the answers that they're giving you necessarily. So lately, I've been looking at how can we help clients. And for many years, we've used Doug Wrenchy. Doug's offered this service. It's a pay-per-use service, and he's helped our clients determine how much Canadian pension plan they will receive. With Doug phasing out into retirement, that option was becoming obsolete. So we've been working on some different solutions, and luckily we came across a calculator that maybe isn't 100% there as far as giving you all the answers, but for the majority of you, and 95 to 99% of you, this calculator will work fantastic. I want to jump into the calculator here in a second and go through 4 different examples. I'll also link the calculator below so you can save it to your favorites and start running through different scenarios. What you want to do is figure out how much am I going to get. You can then take that number, give it to your financial planner to incorporate into your retirement plan. Anytime we do a retirement plan for our clients, we want to know with as accurate as possible what your Canadian pension plan is going to be at different ages. And this calculator will give you that. But before I jump into the calculator, I want to give credit where credit is due, and that's the 2 people that created this calculator. So thank you to Braden, Warwick, and Ben Felix. Now, Ben Felix, you may have heard his name before, who has a big YouTube channel, and we'll link his channel below. They are with PWL Capital, and they put this calculator together, and there's a few other calculators on their website that are fantastic. Great tools. So thank you, Braden. Thank you, Ben, for creating a calculator like this that all of you should be using that will help you get to a better, more accurate number around your Canadian pension plan to allow your retirement plan to be more accurate as well. So here's the view on the PWL Capital calculator. Again, on the left, you can see CPP. They also have a realized or deferred gains and a rent versus buy calculator. So a few other ones. I want to focus on the Canadian pension plan or CPP calculator. Now, how this works is you want to go to the right under assumption. So what I've done here, and again, it covers off QPP and CPP, which is great. You can toggle between the two here. And then you want to put in your birth date, which will match out your age. So again, I've put in someone that's 59 that turns 60 in January and plans to retire of January 2025. From there, you can put in earnings. Again, future earnings are $0. Now, past income, this is an important part. So what you want to do here is click on the edit button, and you can see here, for what I've done here is I've put in 80% of the max YMPE. So yearly maximal pensionable earnings. And what this is once you've hit a certain amount of earnings, you've maxed out your Canadian pension plan contributions for the year. So in this example, just as an example, I assume that every single year, this person earned 80% of the max, meaning that if they put in all their contributions as far as maxing out the 39 years, they would get essentially 80% of the max CPP. Now, for a lot of you, you're wondering like, well, I don't know how much I made in 1983, Adam. Like, I don't have that data. If you go on Service Canada, you can collect that data and get it for input into here. Again, you can copy paste this into an Excel, edit it, throw it back in here. Very customizable and easy to work with, which is fantastic. So I basically said every year they have worked, this person's worked, and they've earned 80% of YMPE to put in the 80% of the max into CPP. So you can customize your earnings here. The next thing you want to look at is children, and I'll cover this in another example, but for this example, I've put they've had no kids, they've never been on disability, and I put a life expectancy based on FP Canada, so Financial Planner Canada table, and you can actually see here. So you can hover over these things. You can choose your own age if you want. If you want to put a custom age in there, you can. I'm just going to leave it at FP Canada because that's what we use as a guidance. So the last thing we want to look at here is inflation. So expected inflation and expected wage inflation. And so these two things we want to put in. Again, it defaults to 2.5 and 3. I would leave it at that. But again, you can play around with these numbers. So if this was me, I would say, look, I'm 59 years old, turning 60 next year, and I plan to retire. No further contribution. So you can see there's some earlier dropout years and some later dropout years that I'm not contributing. And the earlier dropout years are smaller amounts that you paid in. So again, if I had more dropout years later, there wouldn't be any earlier. You can see how much I'm paying in. Now, along the top, you can see I've put in $150,000 into Canadian Pension Plan. Total received over time will be 401, net benefit, and IRR. Now, I'm not too worried about that in this illustration. What I want to look at is click on CPP age comparison. And you can see here, here's my different amounts. Now, you can go present value, lifetime loss, or benefit. I want to look at my benefit. What am I going to receive on a monthly benefit at different ages? So if I took my Canadian Pension Plan at age 60, I would get $721 per month. Now, if I wait all the way till 65, I'm going to get $1,203. And if I wait till 70, I'm getting $1,757. So that shows me the difference. Now, again, you can go lifetime loss, meaning that, if I took it at age 60 and I lived to life expectancy, I'm going to lose out on about $150,000. So again, this is where you can play around with life expectancy, break-even points. But what I want to focus on here, and I think a lot of you where you need to focus on, is how much am I going to get at different ages? Now, the biggest mistake I see when it comes to the Canadian Pension Plan is this. It's a lot of you do a calculation and you figure out your break-even point. So if I take it early versus later, here's my break-even point. So as long as I live past age 78, I'm better delaying. Okay, that's great, but you're looking at your Canadian Pension Plan in a silo, meaning that you're looking at it on its own. But don't you have other income sources and assets that you're also going to be drawing in on? You have OAS, you have probably a RIF, TFSA, non-reg, pension, there's other assets. Maybe you have a spouse or common law. They also have income coming in. Those other income sources affect CPP, affect the break-even point, affect how everything needs to work together. So a break-even point is just one of the many factors you need to look at. And that break-even point will change depending on what other assets and income you have coming in, because it's going to affect the taxes that you pay total. Meaning that break-even point could actually get scaled back quite a bit or pushed forward potentially as well. So that's where you want to be very careful to not look at some of these calculators. And this is why I like PWL's calculator. It doesn't look at here's your break-even point. It just looks at the hardcore numbers, which I like. Then I can take these numbers, put it into proper planning software, and figure out what the best solution is for you, my client, to figure out what is the best time to take it based on everything else that you have going on. And again, that's the mistake most people make. You look at your Canadian Pension Plan, Old Age Security, RIF account, TFSA, everything else that you have coming in on an individual basis. Trust me when I say this, we've done thousands of plans for Canadians. The more that you can incorporate everything together, it's a comprehensive plan. Everything needs to funnel down as tight as possible. That will give you the most amount of after-tax income in your pocket and help pay CRA a lot less money, which we all want to do. The second scenario I want to look at is the same situation. So again, I'm 59, retired in January, but this time a little bit different. I have had 2 kids. So in 1990 and 1992, I had 2 kids and I took time off. And you can see that in your earnings. So if I click on earnings, you can see from 1990 all the way up until 1996, I didn't earn any money. I didn't contribute to the Canadian Pension Plan. So how will that affect me? Again, when you have kids, you have child rearing or dropout years there. So as long as you claim that, then those dropout years maybe don't affect your Canadian Pension Plan all that much. So if I go into the plan here, you can see I've dropped out those years. Everything else is the same. If I go comparison and go to the benefit, I went from 1,757 to 1,753 at age 70. So even though I didn't pay into CPP for many years, because it was a dropout year due to child rearing, it didn't really affect my overall Canadian Pension Plan. Again, everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different here, But isn't it wonderful that we can properly look at this and calculate out? Again, you might have had years where it's lower payment in those times. But a nice breakdown showing you that what is the effect of not paying into CPP, or maybe a smaller amount into CPP, over years that I had kids. And you can see again, drop out later in life, when I'm not paying in once I'm retired, in those child rearing years. So again, the more time you have, and you can see the little baby here at the bottom, they've done a great job putting this calculator together just on presentation itself. So spend some time in here. I do want to go through 2 more quick examples that I think apply to many of you. I talked to a lot of you that have been on CPP disability at some point. And so again, here in disability, I've left everything the same, retiring in January at age 60. But from 2018 to the end of this year, I was on disability. I was unable to work for whatever reason. How does that affect my CPP? And as I go to age comparison and benefit, 1753. So the same as a child rearing, almost the same as having no CPP disability or child rearing. So again, for a lot of you think that I haven't paid in for certain years, it's going to affect me drastically. Not necessarily. The last example I want to show you, which applies to so many of you, is retiring early. Say you are able to retire at 55. That means that from 55 to 65, you're not paying into CPP. And for a lot of you, you default to, I guess I should take CPP early because I'm going to have more dropout years. But the reality is that, yes, you do have more dropout years, and you can see them here. There's lots of dropout time. But when you look at the comparison of benefit, age 60, under $1,000, or if you delay till age 70, you'd have over $2,200. So this again is where you want to work through the software, work through the calculator, and figure out your exact situation to figure out, at the end of the day, what are your numbers so that you can then build that and incorporate that into your overall retirement plan. Now, as I said earlier, this calculator is fantastic, probably the best I've ever seen. It's still missing, in my opinion, one big thing, and I don't know, I haven't had a chance to talk to Ben and Braden about this, but if you're collecting survivor benefit, how does that look? It'd be nice to have a calculator that incorporates survivor benefit to help you decide like what's the best time to take my CPP. So I'll push them a bit on that to see if they can add that. But if it ever gets added or I find a better calculator that covers that, I'll make sure to bring that on the channel so that you have those resources. And before we wrap up today, I do want to mention we are currently offering our Black Friday / Cyber Monday deal on our Financial Masterclass. Now, our Financial Masterclass is over 120 videos, content, download, all of it. It's a very comprehensive course, and it's really, I always say, everything you should have learned back in high school, all your financial basics, and we've just launched 3 new modules in here with another 25 plus videos around investing. The Masterclass has 13 modules now with financial planning, retirement planning, hiring an advisor, taxes here in Canada, and the 3 new modules are investment accounts, types of investments, and basics of investing. And again, the Financial Masterclass isn't built for retirees per se. It's really built for that 20 to 45-year-old market. And I do realize that most of our viewers are 40, 50, 60 plus. But you have kids and grandkids that are just not educated around this. So if you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, make sure to check that out. We'll put the link below, and it'll be on sale until about a week after Black Friday. So check that out and make sure you get it while it's on sale.